And so finally, after a few days, she called me in her room, and she just flat out asked me, like, are you pregnant? And you weren't going to tell me. So she was like so mad that I was pregnant. She was like, I'm about to call a family meeting and everybody's going to be on my side. We're about to convince me that I was getting an abortion. I laid on that table. I could feel my baby. And they told me that I had chlamydia.
This story gets worse and worse. I swear to God. Welcome back to another episode of Clocked Out Conversations. I'm your host, Fahim, and today we got some more TikTok content. Storytime, my mother held me hostage and unalived my baby. This is insane. This is a crazy story time. Again, figured it would make for a good clocked out conversation. I'm not here to waste your time. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. And let's go ahead and get into it.
All right. Where do I start? This is actually turned out to be a little more emotional than I thought it would. Give me a minute. Okay, I'm back. I know you see the title. It is not clickbait. That really happened. Before I get into the story, I want to give you a little backstory. So, I grew up extremely sheltered. My mother was super strict with me. Out of my 6 siblings, I feel like she was only strict with me. Don't know why. I couldn't wait to get out of my mama's house. So, it got to the point where she even went to college with me, had all classes with me. That's another story for another time. But she was just so controlling over my life. I couldn't wait to get out. And so when I got with my first husband, we had planned, like, for my 20th birthday, we were going to move in together. I was going to, just pack all my stuff and dip. That went completely left field. My mom tried to keep me from leaving. That's another story for another day. But yeah, so after I left my mom's house, we ended up moving to Indianapolis. I didn't see my family for a couple months until finally one day I was like, you know what? I want to go see my family. My nieces were having a birthday party, and I wanted to take the bus up to Chicago and see my family for my niece's birthday. So it's February 2007. I had decided that I was going to catch the Greyhound up to Chicago from Indianapolis. Me and my first husband had gotten into a little argument because he didn't want me to go. He said that we didn't have the money to go, but it was my money because I was working. And so I told him, like, yeah, we do have the money to go, especially when you're having these extravagant parties every other weekend, hundreds of dollars. I can afford to go to Chicago. The Greyhound ticket was like $20 or something. And I had a little spending money. So, packed my bags, got on the Greyhound bus, went up to Chicago. Now, I knew I was pregnant before I got to Chicago. I did not want to tell my mom because I knew my mom. And I wanted to make sure I was out the first trimester before I said anything to anybody. But I did tell one of my best friends, and I told my cousin. Now,
Did you tell your husband, though? It speaks volumes of your character and you as a woman if you told your best friend and your cousin and you didn't tell your husband. I'm going to think highly of you, sister, and assume that you told your husband. That's what I'm going to assume. I'm going to give you, benefit of the doubt.
now, I will say we probably was doing a little bit too much on that Yahoo page. I forget what it was called, but it's way back when, y'all. I'm a millennial. So this is when Yahoo had, like, pages and stuff similar to, like, MySpace and Black Planet or whatever. And so we were making little subliminal comments, and my auntie caught on that I was pregnant. She asked my cousin. My cousin admitted that I was pregnant, and then she told my mama. So my mom didn't say anything immediately, but I could tell something was up because she started acting funny. And she started acting like she was irritated. She had an attitude, blah, blah, blah. And so finally, after a few days, she called me in her room and she just flat out asked me, like, are you pregnant? And you weren't going to tell me. And I was pregnant, so I was emotional. I just started crying. And I'm like, yes, I'm pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, you're getting rid of it. I'm like, what? No, I'm not. I'm not getting rid of it. And she was like, you did this on purpose, blah, 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 blah. I saw your journals when you left the house. Now, let me backtrack. When I lived with my mom, yes, me and my first husband did talk about having kids together. And I might have wrote that in my journal. But at one point, we did try on purpose for like a month or two. Nothing happened. I was like, you know what? I don't want to right now. Let's not try no more. And then, boom, when we wasn't trying, I ended up got pregnant. So she was like so mad that I was pregnant. She was like, I'm about to call a family meeting and everybody's going to be on my side. We're about to, basically she wanted to have backup to convince me that I was getting an abortion. Now, another backstory.
Your mother is sick. She's not controlling. She's beyond controlling. This isn't even, you can't use the word controlling. You can't use the word toxic. You have to use the word demented. Do you know how demented you have to be to tell your daughter that she has to abort your granddaughter? And then go so far as to try to convince the rest of the family to be on your side, pressuring your daughter to abort your granddaughter, putting even more stress on the baby that you don't even give a damn about. Lord have mercy.
My mother is a super saved, extremely self-proclaimed devout Christian, pro-life. She's been pro-life my whole life. As a matter of fact, one of the stories she's told me my whole life is that abortion is murder, abortion is wrong, and she calls me her faith baby because she wanted to abort me because I was her fifth child. She was already a single mother. She had broke up with my father and then found out after breaking up with my father that she was pregnant with me and she didn't know what to do and, whatever her story is. And she always talked about how she had to depend on God and God came through for her and her cousin. Remember this cousin because it's the same cousin that she advocated for her granddaughter later on. But her cousin told her not to abort me, to have faith. And so she had faith in God. She ended up getting a job at Sears when she was like 6 months pregnant with me because she wasn't showing that much. She was wearing big shirts. Nobody asked. And right at her probationary period is when her benefits kicked in and she took maternity leave. And so she always talked about don't have an abortion. Abortion is murder. God's going to work it out for you, blah, blah. Mind you, this is what I've heard all my life. All my life. As far back as I can remember. This is the story she's told me. Abortion is murder. We're Christian. We're pro-life. Blah, blah, blah. So needless to say, I was confused. Because why are you forcing me to get an abortion if you pro-life?
Also, I can only imagine the mental anguish you would feel as the daughter, given that you've heard this story your entire life about how you were your mother's faith baby, only for her to contradict herself and tell you to abort your own child. What does that say about her thoughts regarding that child? If you don't have faith in that baby, then you don't care for that baby, you don't think of that baby, you don't consider that baby, you really don't care for your children. It's really a shame.
What happened to all that talk about having faith and depending on God and blah, 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 right? So,
that's another thing. Sorry to keep on pausing. If you considered her your faith baby and she's about to have a baby, then and you're telling her to abort it, how strong is your belief in God? How strong is your belief in God? Doesn't seem too strong to me.
For it. She ends up calling this huge family meeting. When I say huge, I mean it was all of my siblings, their significant others if they had any at the time, all of my cousins that came, that could come, my aunts. I don't, not no uncle. My uncle was in the street, the one uncle I still had. But yeah, she called this huge family meeting at our house, set me at the table. I mean, it was so many people, like the kitchen was overflowing, and we had a two-sided kitchen with a eating kitchen, like one side for eating in and one side for cooking. There was people everywhere, and everybody was complacent on me killing my baby. Oh wait, I need to back up first. A few days before the family meeting got called, my first husband called me asking for me to send him some money because our electric bill was due and he was short. He said, send me some money and I will send it back to you when I get my check, which was supposed to be before I was due to leave, get back on the Greyhound, come back home. So I wired him the money. Turns out he was lying. He didn't need the money. After he got the money, he calls me back. He's like, yeah, I think we need a break after we had that argument. You want to do what you want to do. So I think you should stay at your mama's house for a little bit. And I'm like, I'm not going to stay here. What do you mean? First of all, let's make one thing clear. The apartment was in my name. The car was mine in my name. And I had a job. Okay? He was a bum. He had a job, but he was horrible paying bills. He spent all his money on drugs and food and liquor and parties, trying to show out for people and be a showboater, whatever.
What the hell? Why did you get in a relationship with him? Why did you marry him? This is a reoccurring thing I'm seeing with all of these sisters in these videos. Why are you marrying bums? Some of these brothers don't have any business even thinking about having a woman, let alone actually having one. He doesn't have a job, so he's not a provider. He drinks, he probably smokes all the time. He go out, you said in the beginning, he parties. So he's not a provider, but he's too high to be a protector. And he just stole from you. What the hell were you doing in a relationship with him in the first place?
To call it. So I told him, I said, no, you're not leaving me here. I got to go back to work. I told him to send me the money back. He's like, no. So for 3 days, I'm calling. He's answering the phone. He got people out in the house. He got girls in the house. He's cheating on me. All kind of stuff. So I had asked my mom to loan me $20 so I could go back home, sort my crap out, and kick him out and go on about my life. You know what she told me? No. You know why she told me no? Because he's just trying to put you on me and force me to take care of you and this baby, and I'm not having it. You getting an abortion. Then the family meeting. Now, what I will say is that everybody wasn't complacent. I did have a sister and a cousin and my mother's arch nemesis, my Aunt Bertil, who sadly has passed away over the last couple of years. They did advocate for me, or try to advocate for me, to convince my mom that I had a right to choose what I wanted to do with my body, with my baby. My mom wasn't hearing none of that. Like, she didn't care. As a matter of fact, she was like, you don't agree, you can get out. So, I think the hardest part in that moment for me was hearing my mom say things like, I had another sibling who was going through some rocky times in their relationship with their significant other, and they had just had a baby. And from what my mom said, they wanted to have an abortion because they were planning on separating, getting a divorce or whatever. And my mom doted on the fact that she advocated for them to keep that baby. And so it became a point of feeling like, well, why is my sibling's child more important than mine? Why are you trying to force me to kill my child, but in the same breath bragging about how you saved their child from the same fate? It didn't make no sense. I would say the second hardest part was probably having that same sibling sit at the table and crack jokes about abortions and how everybody gets it and it's no big deal, and how many they've gotten, what a significant other has gotten, and just making light of the whole situation while I'm sitting there contemplating my morality and the fate of my soul, because I'm sitting there thinking like, oh, I'm going to hell because I'm finna kill this baby because everybody's trying to force me to do this, and I feel like I didn't have a say-so. I feel like I didn't have a support system, and I just felt stuck. So now while all of this was going on, my first husband had called me on the phone, and he was arguing with my mom, very adamant about how he wasn't going to agree with them aborting the baby. Like, no, that's my baby. You're not finna abort it. I don't care what you say, blah, blah, blah. And to this day, I don't know what was said. He never told me. Nobody ever told me. All I know is that that same sibling took the phone, went in the back of the house, had a very brief conversation, and when he came back with the phone, my first husband was like, you know what? Yeah, I think you should go ahead and abort that baby. Now, mind you, the whole time I'm still sitting here like, why is this such a big freaking deal? Her whole argument is that he's trying to put me on her to take care of me and his baby. But I don't need nobody to take care of me. I've been taking care of myself for 5 months since I left your house. I got my own job. I got my own car. I got my own crib. I'm self-sufficient. All I need is $20 freaking to catch the bus back home. Ooh.
How self-sufficient are you though when you in need of $20? Gotta think about that. Now, as far as her side of the story, I'm completely on this sister side. I don't know what the hell was wrong with her family. I don't know. Her family is out of their goddamn mind. Completely out of their goddamn mind. To put this much pressure on this sister to kill her child. What the hell? What is your problem? And then the contradictions. You got the mother saying that she doesn't want her to have the baby and wants her to abort it, but then on the same token advocated for the other daughter to have her baby instead of aborting it. Make it make sense. There are so many obvious contradictions that suggests the mother is targeting her because her logic is inconsistent. But let's get into it.
To catch the bus back home. And nobody was trying to hear me. And the arguments that they had for why I should get an abortion was because I was too immature, emotionally and mentally immature, and I couldn't take care of a baby by myself. Now, I want to bring back to your remembrance, I was 20 years old, and my whole life, all I've done was take care of children. I've been a living babysitter for as long as I can remember, since my youngest brother was born. And we're 6 years apart. So about 7 years old, I've been changing diapers. I've been making bottles. I've been burping. I've been feeding. I've been helping with homework. Not just with my sibling, but cousins. I had babysitting gigs, my nieces. I had jobs over the summer where I dealt with nothing but kids. I mean, how many more credentials do you need to say that I can take care of a kid? So I end up calling my first husband back and again trying to coerce him to send me the money so I can catch the bus back home. Like, this whole situation is stupid. I don't know why she think that I'm going to be dependent on her for taking care of this kid. I just want to come back home. All I need is $20. I don't know why I couldn't get the freaking $20. I don't know why I didn't get offered to stay at another relative's house. I tried staying with friends. That wasn't possible. I even called shelters because when I told my mom after the meeting, I said, I'm not aborting my baby. I'm not doing it. She told me, she said, you're either going to abort that baby or I'm going to put you out on the streets. And you don't have any place else to go. Nobody else is going to help you. Do you really want to be pregnant on the streets of Chicago in the middle of February with no money and no help? And so I called around to shelters, women in family shelters, regular shelters. I called around to some friends. I called around a couple of places, and I don't know, it just wasn't working out. So, and I couldn't get the $20. Looking back in retrospect, like, I talked to a couple of my siblings about it, and they too was like confused. Like, I don't know why I guess we were just like disassociated from the situation where nobody could figure out why I didn't get the help or the advocacy that I deserved. But so long story short, I ended up being at my mom's house. She refused to give me money for anything. Like, she controlled my life for the next 2.5 months. And yeah. Excuse my stuffy nose. I did not realize.
She kept you there for 2.5 months. You couldn't get your hands on $20 for 2.5 months. First off, you're not self-sufficient. Okay, we're gonna handle that. If you cannot get your hands on $20 in 2.5 months, sister, I feel really bad for you. I'm sympathetic with you, but you're not self-sufficient. Second off, your family is bogus, trifling. The minds of the bystanders are always forgetful. That's why when she tried to communicate with her family about why they didn't do anything way back then, none of them could remember. Oh, I don't know why I couldn't. I don't know. No, I don't know. Yeah, the minds of the bystanders are always forgetful. That's why. And thirdly, you married a bum. Buddy stole the $20 from you and then didn't care about you being pregnant so much that he made you essentially stay there with your mama for 2.5 months, knowing the kind of ridiculous and sickening relationship you all have. It's, oh my God.
How triggering this still was to me. So, what's next? So yeah, I was pretty much stuck to do whatever she had me to do. Like, my first husband was doing him. He was having a ball. Every time he called me or if I called him, there was all kind of people at the house. It was loud. It was party central. He was going to the bathroom, whispering in the bathroom so the females that he had over didn't hear him talking to me. It was tough. And then on top of that, my mom was just she was just doing the most. Like, so I remember she had called around trying to figure out where she could take me to go get an abortion that she didn't have to pay for. So she ended up finding some agency. I don't know if it was Planned Parenthood or someplace else. I don't think it was Planned Parenthood. I'm pretty sure it was another agency in Chicago that did like abortions and stuff. But they had a grant. But before she found them, she had called this other place that she found in the Yellow Book pages. And they said they did abortions and stuff. And so she took me there, and they took me back in the back room. They asked all these questions, and then they gave me an ultrasound. And when they gave me the ultrasound, I saw my baby like moving on the ultrasound, waving and stuff, and just bouncing all around or whatever. And so they were like, you know how they do, like, oh, look at your baby, that's your baby, you don't want to kill your baby. When I tell you, my mom was livid because she thought it was an abortion clinic, but it was one of those clinics that portray to be an abortion clinic, but really they are like a pro-life clinic and try to encourage you to keep your baby and stuff.
I didn't even know those kinds of things existed, bruh. So people out here portraying themselves to be, you know, anti-life or whatever, and they actually pro-life. Nah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Imagine you about to get an abortion. That bug. You come there thinking you about to get an abortion. Bug say, "Oh, look at your baby. She or he is so cute. You shouldn't have an abortion, bruh." That's gonna make any woman not want to have an abortion. What? I bet your mom was livid. She.
And she went on a I mean this rant about how evil they are and how manipulative they are, and told them they were wrong for tricking people to come there and all this other stuff. Mind you, all the things that she's doing, like she's been manipulative and controlling and everything. And so they tried to put me aside, and they were like, you don't have to go through with this if you don't want to, blah blah. And so when we got back home, she fussed the whole car ride home. And all I could think about was in high school, our senior year of high school in sex ed class, we watched this video called The Silent Scream. And it was about abortions and about how babies can, like they can feel the abortion, you know what I'm saying, happening. Like, and how they had recorded babies that were being aborted and in different stages of gestation, and how some of the babies actually looked like they were screaming out in pain. And that's all I could think about, like, that whole day. And then after that, every time I would try to take my mind off of it, something would just, it was like God was like telling me like to fight it. But I didn't have, at that time, I didn't have the strength or the willpower or the resilience to fight back. Like, I was young and naive, and I just felt lost. And that's what she kept beating to me, like, you need me, you depending on me, like ain't nobody finna come help you, there's nothing you could do for yourself, you need me to do this for you. And so, like, I would turn on TV and it would be something about not having an abortion. I went to the library and got a poetry book, and just so happened, when I flipped it open, it was a poem about abortions. And then somebody, I think my mom, ended up giving me a book. It wasn't a poetry book, but it was just like a book of stories and poetries and other things. And she gave it to me. She had got it from the thrift store. And when I laid in bed, I flipped it open, just flipping through the pages. And the first page I landed on, it was a poem of a baby boy to his mother, begging his mother not to abort it. And it was just things like that that just kept happening back to back that was just like so triggering. And I wanted to fight, but I didn't know how to fight because I lived a sheltered life. All I knew was obeying my mother. All I knew was doing what I'm told. And I just didn't know what else to do. And so she ended up finding another place to take me to for the abortion. And when we walked in the clinic, we filled out the paperwork, and the lady asked me, like, is anybody forcing you to get this abortion? And I looked at my mom, and she was looking at me like you bet not say nothing. You bet. And I remember looking back at the lady, and she was a nice black lady, and she was like, if somebody's coercing you to do this, that's illegal, and they can go to jail. You can press charges, and you can tell me nothing's going to happen to you. You can tell me. And I wanted to so bad, but my mom still got closer to me, and she looked at me, and she was like, all frowned up. She's like, you bet not say nothing. And she was like touching me and like grabbing at my arm. And so I just told them no. I was like, no, nobody's forcing me. But I know that lady, she knew. She knew I was being forced. It was just in her face. Like, you could tell. And so I got my abortion March 16th. I remember because I got 5 kids, and all of my kids, I've noticed that their birthdays like line up with that event. That's another story. I digress. But March 16th, I went in to have the abortion, and it was horrible. It was horrible. I laid on that table. I could feel my baby. And mind you, I got the abortion just in the nick of time. Like, I was a few days away from the cutoff of not being able to have an abortion, because I was like already about 12 weeks pregnant. So I was at the end of the first trimester. And you go in that room feeling, you may not be able to feel the baby move, but you could feel that you're pregnant. And then you wake up on this table in a room full of other women, and you just feel empty, like lifeless. I don't even know how to explain it. But that experience was very traumatizing. Not just leading up to the abortion, but that day, like being in the room with all those different women coming out of having abortions, throwing up in the buckets, other women next to you crying, snotting, bawling. Like, there was one lady there who was a Muslim. She was crying about how she really didn't want to have the abortion, but she already had 7 kids. And because of their religion, she got pregnant because she couldn't take birth control or something. And her husband didn't know about the abortion. And then you had other women who was there, like this ghetto ratchet chick who was in there talking loudly on the phone, bragging about it being her 4th abortion in the last couple of months, and how she was about to hit up the club later. It was different. It was different. And when I left the facility, my sister stopped by, picked us up. We went to Target. I remember we went to Target, and it was like my eyes was open to every pregnant woman in the whole world. And I was just filled with so much anger and resentment and hatred for everybody. Pregnant women, new babies, my family, I wanted everyone to be unalived in the blink of an eye.
Before we get into part 4, okay. The kind of commentary that I want to have. All right. The manipulative mother. Her mother is conniving. Her mother is evil. Her mother is a downright wicked and depraved individual. She forced this girl, her daughter, to have an abortion, and then manipulated her to not tell the clinic that she was being forced. do you know how diabolical that is? And this goes into a deeper conversation about how some black women and sisters just pressure other black women to do things that are just not in their best interest. Like I remember seeing videos, or I remember like dating certain girls, and just, they'll go to the hospital for like their, just annual checkup. I don't know, I'm a man. And like the sisters there would encourage them to get on birth control, and knowing all of the different side effects that come along with it. And they just like would just peer pressure them, just constantly peer pressure them to do it, even if they were on the edge or towards like the belief that they don't want to be on it. It's just crazy. But I'm not ignorant, so I'm not going to sit here and extrapolate this one situation amongst black women as a whole, because I know that's not the case. But this is certainly a situation that is indicative of that, and it's disgusting. It's just downright disgusting, bro. Like the fact that she had to deal with that, her family didn't stick up for her husband didn't stick up for her. She had absolutely no support system, and this gets into how weak-minded a person she had been made into by way of her wicked and depraved mother. How fragile your self-esteem must be as a result of being raised in such a fractured household, where your mother is putting your other siblings above you, and your other sibling had a child, but she didn't force her or pressure her into getting an abortion. In fact, advocated for her not to get an abortion, but when it comes to you, she's going to peer pressure you into going to the clinic. What the hell? And you got, siblings that are making light and making fun of you having to get an abortion while they sit there happily with their children. Yo, if this isn't a crazy household, if this isn't a evil household, if this isn't an outright ungodly house, I don't know what the fuck else to say.
Okay, everybody, I'm back. I know it's a new day. I needed to take a mental break from storytelling last night. And I'm going to try to finish this story tonight, because I do have other stories to get into. But I'm going to try and finish this story tonight. And just a reminder, all my stories are real life events that happened to me, and I'm telling them from my perspective. So where did I leave off at? So after I had the abortion, my mom became like her normal self. She was back being all talkative, lovey-dovey. Hey, you want to go to the store with me? You want to do this? You want to do that? Like, just love bombing me. And my first husband was still, by this time, he had moved some friends into my place, our place, whatever you want to call it. Either way, he had moved them in, because every time he would call me, there's like a whole bunch of dudes in the background. I'm like, who is that? Oh, this is this Snoop, this Tim, this whoever. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like partying every day? And this man still would not send me my money back. He was adamant, like, no, I'm not putting you off on your mama, but I think we need a break. And it was like a forced break.
How you gonna force us into a break and you in my goddamn house? Partying at my house, bringing random people into the house. Oh my goodness.
My mom still would not give me the money. Nobody would give me the money. And it got to a point where I was like, what are you gonna do? Keep me here? She was like, you don't need to go back in that situation. That's too much drama. That's too much stress. You don't need to be with him. Blah, blah. Fine, Danny. I didn't want to be with him anyway. That's another story. But I wanted to leave my mom's house because, like I said before, my mom was so controlling and so strict with me all the way up until adulthood that I feel like we just vibe better when I'm not under her roof. When I have the freedom to go and do as I please, because as I please, not as she please me to do. But yeah, so this went on for about another good month or so. Where I just kept asking, like, can you just help me get home? Like, bus ticket, drive me there, whatever. I don't want to be here. I want to go home. It got to the point where, I was just locking myself in my old room most of the day in bed. I didn't want to come out. I didn't want to do nothing because I got into a state of like severe depression. At the time, I didn't know I was severely depressed, but I was just like severely depressed. I was crying all the time. I was angry all the time. I was resentful of people all the time. And I started feeling bad because that's not who I am as a person. Like, I'm not a jealous, envious, like, cold-hearted, mean person. So to walk in a store and see a woman holding her belly, happy with her spouse or whatever, shopping, walking through baby aisles and getting triggered to being mad and having these intrusive thoughts of people that I don't even know, like, that was crazy. And so it got to a point where me and my mom got into an argument about her holding me hostage and not letting me leave. Like, it was as simple as giving me the money. Now, by this time, I lost my job. They repossessed my car because I wasn't paying it, right? It wasn't working. I was held hostage for a couple months. And the house was still there because he had moved in his little roommates and they was paying the bills. So they had the apartment and they was just living it up. So then it got to a point where my oldest sister came over and she wanted to have a talk with me and my mom. And so my mom and me are sitting across the table from each other, and my mom is like, I don't understand why she keeps trying to leave. You're so ungrateful. I'm just trying to help you out, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't want to live with you because I can't. You nag all day, every day. You wake up as a crack of dawn, yelling, screaming, fussing about any and everything. You control my life. I can't do nothing. Any money I have, you take all my money. That's been going on since I was a teenager from my first job. My mama took all my money. That's another story for another time too. But she got to the point where, and I wasn't like yelling at her or nothing. I was speaking sternly, like, no, I don't want to live with you because of this, this, and this. And she started crying. I remember looking at her like, are you for real?
Bitch, fuck your tears. Man, you talking about you gonna start crying? You gonna start crying? Like, what? The manipulation? What? I props for her, for her to be able to articulate herself with everything that she's been through with that woman. But I'm gonna let you know right now, she is completely justified in screaming at her mother, completely justified in yelling at her. She literally has damn near the devil for a mom. She's abusive as hell. Let's get it back into it.
You're the one crying after what you just did to me, and you're the one crying because I'm telling you I don't want to live with you. What the? So then my sister's like, okay, well, what do you need us to do? And I sat back and I'm like, $20 for a bus ticket would help. Right? That's what I've been asking for. So fast forward, she gave me a bus ticket and a couple of dollars to have in my pocket. They put me on the bus back to Indianapolis. Now, by this time, I'm pissed, right? Because this could have been done a long time ago and you could have got your money back. I would have still had a job. I would have still had a car. And I still would have had my kid. So I was hot about it. I'm like, really? It took y'all 2.5 months to send me home so I could square up with this nigga and settle things make things straight. Really, 2.5 months. That's what it took. But so when I get off the Greyhound, I didn't have enough money to catch a taxi. So there was, at the time there was like taxis lined up for when you get off the bus to help you go where you need to go. And so I went up to a taxi driver. I asked him, I said, how much is it to go here? And he was like, oh, it's going to be this much. And I'm like, counting my money out. I'm like, I don't have that much. So I'm like, do you know where the nearest bus station is? And he so I could catch the bus. And he's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm going to give you a ride free of charge. It's on me. That's favor. And so pull up to the house. I walk in my house. I walked in because the front door was locked, but the patio door was open, like cracked open. And I walk in, and there's like 4 different niggas laying in my house on the couch. Somebody had made a pallet on the floor. I'm looking at all my pictures, all my decor. Everything has been taken off the walls. All the pictures have been moved. All my decor is moved. It looks like it ain't my house. If you walked in, you would not have known a woman lived there. It looked like a bachelor pad. So what had happened was, my first husband, he's a raggedy bum self, he went and hid everything in the outside storage and pretended like I didn't live there and like it was his place. And he moved in all his brand new friends from the community. Because, mind you, we had just moved in there not that long ago before all this happened. Because, like I said, I moved out on my 20th birthday. So it was only like 5 months from when I left my mom's house or whatever, when all this stuff transpired in February. So I'm like, what is going on? But he did have some women drawers in the bed. So I know he was getting some butt. But I'm like, so I walk in and I'm like going off. I'm like, who is you? Who is you? Get out my house. Get off my couch. Get out. And my husband wasn't there. He was at work. And they're like, who was you? And I'm like, who was you? The lease is in my name. This is my place. I don't know who you are, but y'all need to get up out my house. You need to get up out my house now. So I ended up putting the dudes out. One was like a 16 going on 17-year-old. Left his mama house. He was dealing drugs out of my house within the community. The other guy had just turned 18, also left his mama house. And the third guy, he really wasn't staying there. He was just like a lone visitor. Like he would spend a couple nights and then going back home, and then spending a couple nights and going back home. So I told him they all had to go. You gotta go back to your mama house. This is my house. And I went in the storage and put all my stuff back in my house. And I put his stuff in the storage. Because, what you thought? Then, fast forward to, he comes home. We get into this huge argument or whatever. I'm going off about the whole situation, about him taking the money, lying to me, basically being an accomplice to my mother and family holding me hostage at my mom's house. Fast forward to some weeks start going by, and I was suffering from post-abortion stress syndrome. I did not know it at the time. Actually, I didn't find out that that's what it was till about 3 years later when I finally got myself some professional help. I would have these very vivid, very violent dreams of, let's just call it what it is. In my dreams, I was unaliving my family members and my husband, and because of what their dad did to me. And sometimes in the dreams I might not unalive them, but I definitely was fighting them. And it got to the point where I was fighting in my sleep. Like, my husband would wake up because I'm like fists punching the walls. Like I was asleep in a bed facing the wall, and I was punching the wall. I would wake up with bloody knuckles. Sometimes I would be attacking him in my sleep. It got crazy. I couldn't control like these crying outbursts. Like I'll be in a shower and just break down, falling on the floor, laying in the shower, just bawling, crying.
It's the part about abortion they don't tell y'all about. It's the part of this shit they do not tell y'all about.
Because of the trauma that I had went through. Nobody apologized. Nobody. Not even years later. Years later, I tried to confront a couple of family members about it, and either they told me they didn't remember it happening. Actually, let me take that back. Two of my sisters did apologize. They apologized for not being there for me like they should have been, because they too, like I said before, they felt like they was just disassociated. But other people, they either didn't remember. If they don't remember, then, what can I say? You don't remember. And then my mom, anytime I tried to bring it up to her, which was twice, years and years had passed. Like the first time I tried to bring it up to her, she got really defensive, went off on me, hung up the phone. And then the second time I tried to bring it up to her, which was just about 6 or 7 years ago, she again was very defensive, told me she didn't owe me an apology. She took it up with God, and that's the only forgiveness she needed. But yeah, I was so traumatized that I was breaking down crying. I was fist fighting walls, fist fighting people in my sleep. And it got to the point where I was like, I feel like the only rational thing I could think of is I want my baby back. And I don't want to be with you, but I want my baby back. Just give my baby back and I'm a deal. And so it ended up where I did get pregnant like within a couple months after that, because all that stuff happened. That was April, May. By end of July I was pregnant, and I didn't find out till about my mom's birthday, which is funny because that's been the case with almost all my kids, including the ones I've lost. But I didn't want to tell nobody. I was so scared. Like in my mind, I was just thinking like, if I tell somebody, gonna take this baby away from me. Or my mom being a super Christian, I kept thinking like, she's gonna pray to God to kill my baby and I'm a miscarry. I didn't tell nobody. No, the only person who knew obviously was my husband, and we end up having to move to Fort Wayne, Indiana, because he had a whole son. I didn't know about it. So we got a letter in the mail that his son, who was about 4 or 5 at the time, about 4 years old, had got put in the system. And we had to move to Fort Wayne so we could try to get custody of him. I didn't even know he had a son. We had been dating for over 1.5 years. Nobody in his family said nothing about it. He didn't either. As a matter of fact, I was so terrified of losing my baby to my family or my mom again. I didn't even seek prenatal care until I was about 5 months pregnant. And the only reason why I went is because I kept being itchy down there. And it's like my first official pregnancy, I guess you'd call it, because I didn't get that far with the other one. But so I went to the doctor, and they told me that I had chlamydia. And I was like dumbfounded, because I'm like, what? No. I literally told the doctor, I said, no.
This story gets worse and worse. I swear to God. What in the world? You got chlamydia? What in the hell is even going on anymore? What?
You got the wrong chart. I need you to go back out there, check the name, and come back with the right information, because that's not me. Nope, can't be. It can't be. because he got tested before we tried again, and he was clean, and he the only one I've been having sex with. So, what you talking about? So the doctor looks at me and he's like, "No, it's the right chart, and you got chlamydia, and you need to fill out this paper and list all the people you've had sexual contact with." I said, "All the people I had? What do you mean? He is the only one I've been sleeping with." And he just sitting in the corner like this. Like, not even, he don't want to make eye contact, nothing. So the doctor's like, now you can tell the doctor is like clearly awkward and is putting this little predicament. He's like, "You know what? I'm just going to leave out the room. I'm going to let y'all talk about it." So I look at him and I said, "Who you been sleeping with?" He's like, "I ain't been sleeping with nobody. Who you been sleeping with?" I said, "I know you lying to me." I was about to jump off that table and I was about to beat him. I was about to put the brakes on, okay? And so he tells me, he's like, "I don't got nothing. Maybe you got it from the toilet, from sitting on the public toilet." I said, "Nigga, do you not know how STD work? It's a sexually transmitted disease. How I get off the toilet? How?" Come to find out, he was laying pipe to his coworkers. And I think it was a chick in the neighborhood too. That's what happened. Before we moved to go get his son, that's what happened. He was cheating on the low. That's my fault. Kinda. Because I took him back. I mean, I ain't take him back. But, you know. Price I had to pay to get my kid back, right?
I'm not gonna lie, I still sympathize with this sister, and the only reason I do is because I understand the psyche of somebody who's raised in a broken home. When I say broken home, it doesn't necessarily have to be the father is gone or the mother is gone. It could just mean the people in the household are broken. And I understand that when you're raised in a household like that, it makes you susceptible and vulnerable to those who would like to take advantage of you desiring love in any place that you can possibly get it because you lacked that love at home. So a very hateful, a very spiteful, a very evil person can come in your life presenting themselves as somebody who would love you only to take advantage of your yearning for that love. Let's get into it.
Okay. Hopefully this is the last part of the story time before I dive in and answer some questions that have been popping up in the comments. I haven't read all of them, but I've seen a few of them. So, backtrack. Yes, I was still communicating with my mother. Don't ask me why. She's my mom, I guess. That was the mindset I had at that time. And so, while all of this was going on, her cousin granddaughter was pregnant, or had got pregnant. And she was a few years younger than me. Mind you, I was 20, so she was about 17, 18 years old. And the grandmother, now remember, this is the cousin that had told my mom not to abort me, right? Also in the church, also Christian, whatever. And so she had told my mom that she wanted her granddaughter to get an abortion and blah, 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 blah. And so my mom is like calling me, having regular conversations, yada, yada. And she brings up how her cousin and the cousin's daughter wanted the granddaughter to have an abortion because she was too young to have a baby, whatever. And my mom was advocating for her not to get an abortion. Now, mind you, this is like a few months after my ordeal. It was like she was like a completely different person. It was like she flipped and went back to who she was before she was this whatever when I was pregnant. And so she was doing stuff. Now, mind you, wait, let me tell you something. This is hearsay. Everything I'm saying right now in this little segment It's hearsay because this is what my mom told me. It's not what I heard myself. But she was taking her out. She was bringing her over to the house, spending quality time with her, sending her encouraging letters and cards, buying her jewelry and other things, pearls. Like, and she's calling me and bragging about all of this. I'm just sitting there listening to it. And I really didn't have a reaction. I mean, I was pissed. I didn't tell her that. I don't know. So, fast forward to now we're in a whole nother city because we're trying to get custody of his son or whatever. Got a new place, got a new car, dealt with some drama in the midst of that. I don't even feel like going into all that right now. But, long story short, I went my whole pregnancy with nobody knowing that I was pregnant. Like, nobody in my family knew I was pregnant. Except maybe one or two people that I trusted. And so, got down to like the 8th month, and my mom called again on one of her regular schmegular conversations, and we were talking about something. I don't really remember what we were talking about. I just know that it was some Oprah show that she had saw, and she was making commentary about that. And I guess I must have said something. I don't remember what I said, so don't ask me. But I said something that triggered her. And I remember she paused in a conversation, and then she asked me, like, are you pregnant? And in that moment, like, so many things was going through my mind. Like, I mean, I anything you could think of that I probably thought of in that split second, I did. And I was just like, you know what? Whatever. Forget it. It's, what can she do? I'm this far along. I'm further away than I was before. What can she do? And so I told her yes. And she was mad. She was mad that I was pregnant again. And she stopped talking to me for like 2-3 weeks. She didn't start talking to me again till I was probably about a week or less from delivering when she started talking to me again. But when she came back like full force, like ready to be a grandma, like happy and excited and all these things. And so she's like talking about, you know, how I'm feeling and, you know, what's my birth plan and what am I naming her, encouraging me to name her after, you know, one of my siblings and all kind of stuff or whatever. So she ended up wanting to come down to visit, and she came down the day I delivered. So I had let her know I had went into labor, and she came down the day I delivered my daughter. And she stayed for a few days, and then she came back again, stayed for another weekend, trying to help out. And by this time, we had got his son, so he was living with us too. And I mean, she just full-blown played into the grandma role with my stepson and my daughter, and act like she didn't force me to get an abortion like 10 months earlier, 10, 11 months before. So, actually a whole year before, because I had my daughter in March the following year. So, and my abortion was March 16th of 2007, and I had my daughter March the following year at the end of the month. So, yeah. Even after having my daughter, though, that didn't start like a healing process for me the way I thought it would. As a matter of fact, it actually opened up even more like insecurities and anxieties. And for 3 or 4 years, talking about that situation, I could not talk about it without breaking down, bawling, crying in tears. And that's the main reason why I am so pro-choice. Even though I'm pro-life for myself, I believe that nobody, not your family, not the government, not your spouse, nobody has the right to control your body, your choices, your future. You deserve autonomy. You deserve peace. And you deserve to live life on your terms, you know. I was silenced for a long time about a lot of things that I've dealt with in regards to my mother and my immediate family. But I'm not staying silent. My story is mine, and I will tell it so that nobody else has to feel alone. Because I know there are other people out there who have experienced similar situations or even worse. And I just want to say that even in your darkest moments, you're still worthy of love, peace, and healing. And I pray that for you.
This was a crazy one. This was a crazy one. Yeah. I pray for healing with her family. And I mean, it just seems so disgusting how manipulative her mom is or was. I don't know if she's still alive, but yeah, this is pretty ridiculous. But thank you for tuning in to another Clacked Out Conversation. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.